will come with a certain set of presuppositions that if I'm talking to a guy, like, I know this guy's an atheist, I know this guy is X, Y, I know he's going to believe this because I understand this worldview, therefore I now understand the presuppositions. So that's why kind of defining what your worldview is, and if you're speaking with someone who has a pretty substantive understanding about this, about just philosophy in general, then they will also understand, oh, if he says this word, he means this.
Generally. Now,
yes, that
just
is
a word of
generally
caution
true.
for anybody listening and for ourselves. It's generally true because people are different and there are nuances with that.
Yeah.
Just because they start at a certain point that other people started from, and most of them come to a certain conclusion, that person may come to a completely different conclusion.
Because again, worldviews vary slightly.
They do,
depending on each person.
When you get away from truth.
Yes, when you get away from truth.
When you stick, when there's truth and there's a consensus, there's an agreement on what truth is.
Yeah.
You're pretty solid there with that worldview.
On those presuppositions, right. And so this is what Schaeffer says about presuppositions. Mm-hmm. People have presuppositions. By, quote, presuppositions, we mean the basic way that an individual looks at life, i.e. his worldview, the grid through which he sees the world. Presuppositions rest upon that which a person considers to be the truth of what exists. A person's presuppositions provide the basis for their values and therefore the basis for their decisions.
Yeah. So that just plays right back into, it's just a word used. The word presupposition is used to talk about what people are assuming about values, about their life, about the answer to those questions that people hardly ever bring up the answers to those big questions in a conversation, but their presuppositions define what that is, and they're assuming what they believe truth is in those to answer those questions.
Yes.
And then they're going to have conversations without ever bringing those things up.
Like for example, we are both Christians.
Right.
So what is an example of a presupposition, just to kind of give a framework for this, like what is an example of a presupposition that we both hold, that Christians hold?
That God created everything.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
So but I won't necessarily bring that up in every conversation.
Right.
But God creating everything, that belief, that presupposition that I hold, is going to determine so much of any argument or any conversation I have with so many people. It's just that assumption, that knowing of that fact. Yes, I'm using words like that to describe this. It's affected the way I view everything. Yes. Just to give our listeners a hint, that's the idea of what a worldview does. That affects the way we look at literally everything, of the truth that of those. Say it correctly, Joel. The answers to those basic fundamental questions, the truth of those answers is going to form how I look at everything.
And just following that example of that presupposition, right? The fact that we believe that God created the universe, that has downstream implications even for politics.
Yes, it does.
Right? Because now you have to, I believe God created the universe. I believe he made everything.
Yep.
We also believed in that he made it good.
Yep.
He gave the world everything that it needed. So that now has downstream environmental implications.
Yes.
And so then now, because environmentalism is huge, and how you approach environments with, now you have legislation, all these things. So now that has implications politically, right? So that's just following that thread. And like one of our presuppositions, every single one of these ties in your worldview is going to affect the decisions you make in life, whether that be politically or philosophically or financially or familially, like as you approach your relationships, your society, your culture, your community. Every single thing that is a part of your worldview affects those decisions.
Yes.
Or a better way of saying that would be the decisions you make reflect your worldview.
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So that brings us to this next question. And I think we're already kind of getting an idea of this, but why does worldview matter? Like, why even talk about it? Is it that big a deal?
Yes, that big a deal. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. It's the biggest deal, right? Because it is, worldview is the thing that governs the world.
Right.
The wheels of this world, the cogs of governments are turned by worldviews.
Yes. And not just government, the cogs of family, the cogs of marriage, the cogs of entertainment, the cogs of economics and education and the environment, and everything is determined by people's ideas of worldview.
Yeah.
And something about that, and this, I think this is just to go along what you just said, and it just came into my mind just a moment ago. I think it was A.W. Tozer who said something along the lines of, the most important thing about a human being is what they think about when they think about God.
Yeah.
That to me is the nucleus, the most important piece of a worldview. Yes. What do you think about God? Mm-hmm. And the implications of that are astounding.
And honestly, you can probably define a worldview. More likely than not, I think it's reasonable to say you can firmly place someone in any ism camp.
Yeah.
With just that question. Right. What do you think about God? And if I get a detailed answer, I can put them in Judaism, atheism, Islam, Christianity, humanism, fascism, Marxism, all of it. I can place someone firmly in any camp based upon the answer to that one question.
Right. I mean,
what do you believe
because that
God?
Is such a big determiner, yes. But we are kind of getting ahead of ourselves here.
Don't we always?
Yeah, a little bit. But so a worldview is something every human has, whether they know it or not. Kind of already touched that with a Schaeffer point.
Yeah.
It is simply how you view the world. I'm going to say that again. And this is something you had said. So I'm quoting you. It is simply how you view the world. What is the metric of truth by which you answer all of life's questions? And I would add to, it is simply how you view the world and then live out that view.
Yeah.
That is a worldview.
Yep.
Period. That's as simple as we can say it. It's how you view the world and then how you live out that view. Mm-hmm. So I think you had a couple other, believe it or not, folks, Francis Schaeffer.
I think he's actually the only person I quote.
Yeah, probably. I think you actually, because when we were getting ready for this, I was like, I'm going to look for some. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let Gabe pull those up because he's going to get them on there for us. So go ahead.
So I've got two of them here. And they both kind of answer this question of why does worldview matter?
Right.
And they both kind of have to do with addressing the idea of absolutes. The first one here, he says, and this is from Escape from Reason. Mm-hmm. He says, here's a simple but profound truth. If there are no absolutes by which to judge society, the society then is absolute. Mm. The society is left with one man or an elite power dynamic filling the vacuum left by the loss of the Christian consensus which originally gave us form and freedom. So what he addresses here is very important. Right, because he's addressing like the society and culture in reference to this idea of the absolute.
Right.
Right. So if you reject the idea of an absolute truth, meaning you accept the idea that, okay, yes, worldviews can differ from person to person, but it doesn't matter if any one of them is true or not. You can have your worldview, I can have mine, and we'll just pretend like both of them can coexist.
Right.
When you accept
that is an absolute.
Yeah, that is an absolute, right? By saying there are no absolutes. And so, but when you adopt that at the societal level, you then have to ask the question, who then governs society? Mm-hmm. If absolutes don't govern society, then there is no morality, which means there's no basis for law, which means there's nothing to prevent the most heinous acts that humanity has the ability to perform on one another.
Right.
There's nothing to prevent that.
And see, this is where I fundamentally disagree with my favorite Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, when he said to Anakin, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Now, when it comes to the moral relativism and that becomes an absolute.
Said that with you.
Don't be. Everybody's a Star Wars nerd at some point. It's okay. No, but seriously, like in the sense of when society becomes the absolute because they've judged that there is no absolutes in society.
Yeah.
Man, that's just like that. It's the idea you might, people, our listeners, I know I hear it all the time, might hear like political commentators saying things like, when you get God out of a society, the state becomes God. That's exactly what happens. That's what Schaeffer is saying here.
Yeah.
Because it is a little g God that society or culture or the government becomes when you remove what really is absolute and true.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, again, Schaeffer addressing this same concept, he says, again, also from Escape from Reason.
Yeah.
If there is no absolute moral standard, then one cannot say in a final sense that anything is right or wrong. By absolute, we mean that which always applies, that which provides a final or ultimate standard. There must be an absolute if there are to be morals, and there must be an absolute if there are to be real values. If there is no absolute beyond man's ideas, then there is no final appeal to judge between individuals and groups whose moral judgments conflict. We are merely left with conflicting opinions.
Chaos.
Yeah.
That's all that happens when you remove an idea of absolute moral standards, absolute truth, absolute with God, that there is an actual right and wrong, like that people are going to be held accountable for. When you remove that, you just get chaos. Yeah. Pure pandemonium.
Yeah, and I love that line he has here. Then if there's no absolute beyond man's ideas, right? So the things that we can arrive upon through philosophy, right? So our philosophy is all well and good.
Yeah.
Right. Our theology is all well and good. Our worldviews are all well and good. But if there's no final appeal, with which that we submit our conclusions to, right? If there's nothing that I can go say, here is this mosaic that I have painted about the world.
Right.
How does it add up? If there is no basis, if there is no final appeal to which I can offer up that artwork, then
you are left reaching into the darkness.
Yeah.
And you have no idea if you're right or wrong. And that's the thing is, God has made man to know that there is a truth. And when you reject that, you are lost. Like, it's not just like, when we're called lost in the Bible, it's not just that you're lost in need of a savior.
Yes.
You're lost because you have no ground for any kind of life, any kind of solidity in anything.
And just an example, and this is why I cannot tout Schaeffer enough, right? Because one of the things that he does is he then gives examples as he's discussing the necessity for an absolute. He then gives you examples of what happens when you don't have that.
Yep.
And he does this all throughout his works, like How Should We Then Live, The God Who Is There,
right?
Escape from Reason. All of his works do a very good job on drawing on the arts. Right. And I think that's a forgotten field for a lot of philosophers as people try
Christians
to,
and theologians.
Definitely Christians and theologians.